Hi, I'm Olivia, and today it's a bit rainy outside, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to sit down and chat about why I decided to learn Japanese and how my decision was influenced by the other languages that I know. Also, I would love to know why you guys decided to learn Japanese, so make sure you let me know down in the comments. Now, some of you may know that Japanese isn't the first language that I've tried to learn. I live in Canada, and here our official languages are English and French. So growing up, I had the opportunity to go to a French immersion school. That basically means that a lot of my classes were in French growing up. So I had a French class where we did all of the textbook work and learned about grammar structures and how to conjugate verbs. But then a lot of my other classes were still taught in French. So my math was in French, my science was in French, and then I also had the opportunity in high school to go on exchange in France. So I know French at a fairly high level. I wouldn't quite say I'm fluent because my accent isn't quite on par and I'm a bit out of practice, but I can express myself at a regular pace and understand native speakers. Growing up, I took learning French for granted because I lived in an area where French wasn't spoken, and so I figured I wouldn't really ever use it. But when I had that opportunity in high school to go on an exchange, I was able to live with a French family and go to French school, and I actually got to use my French every day. I had such a great time and met so many amazing people, and by the end of my trip, I realized that so many of those experiences were only made possible because I knew the language. So ever since then, I always had this idea in the back of my head that I wanted to learn more languages so that I could open myself to the possibility of having more of those experiences like I had during my time in France. So in came 2020 with all the lockdowns, and I just had so much time on my hands. So I figured that it was a great time to try and learn a new language, but I didn't know what language I wanted to learn. At first I decided that I wanted to try learning Spanish because so many people speak Spanish and I live in North America, so I figured it would be a pretty practical language to learn and that there'd be a high probability that I would actually get to use it living here. So I started learning it through immersion, watching YouTube videos and watching TV shows, and I was able to work my way up to understand native Spanish speakers on YouTube. But once I hit this point, I started to lose interest and wasn't as excited about it as I had been when I first started. Because you see, English, French, and Spanish have a lot of overlap. There's a lot of similarities in the grammar structures. There's a lot of vocabulary words that overlap. So for me, I found that I started to lose interest because there wasn't really anything for me to learn anymore. I just had to listen to a lot of Spanish and watch a lot of Spanish. And I just started to run out of resources that I was really excited about learning from. And it just started to feel more like a chore than a fun hobby, which is what I wanted it to be. So I decided that I was happy with what I had accomplished with Spanish, but I wanted something that would be more engaging for me. And so that is when I decided to learn Japanese. Like I said, I wanted something that would be more engaging. I wanted to learn a language that was really different from the languages that I already knew. I knew that I wanted to learn this new language using a lot of immersion materials. So I wanted to make sure that there would be a lot of material for me to study from that I was really excited to use and was really interested in watching and listening to. Because of this, Japanese seemed like a really good choice because I actually had never seen anime until last year, but I'd always wanted to watch it. So I figured learning Japanese would be a great idea because that would be a really great source material for immersion, and it was something that I was already interested in watching anyway. So yeah, that was kind of the reason why I decided on Japanese over other languages. I wanted something that wasn't a European base just because I already had experience with other European languages, and I wanted to make sure that there would be a lot of immersion content that I could use that I was actually interested in and wanted to watch that would keep me motivated to keep studying the language. So what about you guys? Have you started learning Japanese, and what was your reason in doing so? Do you have friends or family who speak Japanese and you're hoping to be able to talk to them? Are you doing it as a hobby like I am? Are you hoping to one day live in Japan or move to Japan or work for a job that requires you to know Japanese? Let us know down in the comments, and that is all I have for today, and I'll see you again soon.